Good evening, one and all. I welcome you all to Ganesh IAS Academy. In today's session, we'll be seeing science and technology based current affairs from the date February 21 to February 29, 2024. Let us get into the news articles one by one. The first news that we are going to see for today is BioTRIG. What is BioTRIG? This we need to know in detail, and why is this in news? Let us understand one by one. BioTRIG. A recent study has claimed that BioTRIG, which is a new waste management technology. So from exam perspective, you should have to know that it is a new waste management technology which could help rural Indians. So how is this technology, waste management technology, is going to help the rural Indians? This we need to know. Okay, and then this technology is based on pyrolysis system. So here, from science and technology perspective, we must also understand what is pyrolysis, the basics of pyrolysis process, how does it work, and what are all the inputs and outputs of the process. These details we must have to know. And then it works by sealing the waste inside oxygen free chamber. So how does this waste management technology works? It works by sealing the waste items, organic or inorganic waste, and then it is placed inside oxygen free chamber. Mostly organic waste are handled here. Okay, inorganic waste, it will be toxic, and then there are chances that certain explosives are there. So inorganic waste are separately handled. Here mostly in pyrolysis process, organic waste are handled. Okay, so it is going to use an oxygen free chamber and heating it above 400 degrees Celsius, and useful chemicals are produced in this process. So in this process, useful chemicals are going to be produced. We are going to harness these chemicals. That is what is important. So we are going to harness these chemicals, and that is what is going to be used as a fuel for electricity and other things, which will again help our rural Indians. So this is the link that we have. So in the study, the researchers outlined that 3 products of pyrolysis. What are all the 3 products? One is bio oil, another is synthesis gas, another is biochar fertilizer, which could help rural Indians live healthier and greener lives. Okay, so this is what we need to know here, that it is going to help rural Indians. The products are bio oil, syn gas, and then biochar fertilizer. Now let us understand the pyrolysis process and how does this work, this waste management system work. What is pyrolysis? It is a kind of chemical recycling process. Okay, so it is a chemical recycling process that turns the leftover organic materials, very important to be noted. So such leftover organic materials are going to be recycled here into their component molecules. So they are going to be recycled into their component molecules, and this is done inside the pyrolysis plant. So what is the setup? Just like we saw in the previous slide, it works by sealing the waste inside the oxygen free chamber and heating it to more than 400 degrees Celsius, producing useful chemicals in the process. So these are all the useful chemicals that we are talking about. Here you may have this doubt that what is syn gas? What is it made of? Okay, oil and biochar we are very well aware of, but what is synthesis gas? Synthesis gas or syn gas is a combination of carbon monoxide and hydrogen. Okay, so carbon monoxide and hydrogen together is called as synthesis gas. Why is it called synthesis gas? That is because many other products can be obtained by having these two as base material. Many other hydrocarbons can be produced with the help of these two base material, that is carbon monoxide and hydrogen. So that is the reason why it is called as syn gas or synthesis gas. Now here we need to understand the significance of this process, this waste generation or waste management process. Okay, so syn gas and bio oil that is coming as a product from this pyrolysis process will power the pyrolysis system in future cycles. It is coming as a product of the pyrolysis process and then the same can be used as a fuel for future pyrolysis process, and then the surplus electricity is utilized to power local homes and businesses. So this is how it is going to help the rural Indians, that the surplus electricity can be used for local homes and businesses. Next is the clean burning bio oil will replace dirty cooking fuels in homes. Okay, there may be dirty cooking fuels that are used, but then when we replace that with this bio oil, then it may be very useful. Next is biochar can be used to store carbon while improving soil fertility also. So it will act as a fertilizer, a manure. Okay, so it is also going to help in storing carbon. How it is going to help in storing carbon, and to what extent? Let us understand this. So computer simulations showed that this BioTRIG system could also be effective in real world application, and it could help reduce greenhouse gas emissions from the local communities by nearly 350 kilogram of carbon equivalent per capita per annum. Okay, see the amount, it is 350 kilogram of carbon equivalent per capita per person per annum can be reduced with the help of this BioTRIG system. Okay, so it will help in reducing greenhouse gas emissions. This is what we need to know, and one main component here which is going to store carbon is that biochar, okay, which will be used as a fertilizer, which will again improve the soil fertility. Next is it could help rural Indians cut indoor air pollution, just because earlier the dirty cooking fuels were used, air pollution inside homes were very high. Okay, so when we go for such an alternative, it will considerably reduce the air pollution inside home. Okay, and then improve soil health and generate clean power. So generating clean power is bio oil, improving soil health is biochar, and indoor air pollution again bio oil. Okay, so this is how it is going to help. And yet another product that we have is syngas, also called as synthesis gas, which is combination of carbon monoxide and hydrogen, which can be base material for production of many other hydrocarbons. Okay, so this is what we need to understand from this particular topic. Okay, BioTRIG waste management technology. The topic that we are going to discuss now is hemophilia. What is this hemophilia? Why is hemophilia in news? Let us understand. Recently, Union Science and Technology Minister told that India has conducted first human clinical trial of gene therapy for hemophilia A, where at Christian Medical College, Vellore. Okay, so this is the news that recently India has conducted the first human clinical trial of gene therapy for which disease? For hemophilia. So from exam perspective, we need to understand two things here. One is what is hemophilia and what is this hemophilia A1. Next is what is gene therapy. If we understood these two, then it is okay. Okay, so now let us understand what hemophilia is. It is actually a genetic bleeding disorder. Okay, so whenever we see this term heme, then it is very clear that it is something related to blood. Okay, so it is a bleeding disorder, genetic bleeding disorder, genetic, that is again important, which is caused by deficiency in clotting factor 8. Okay, it is a blood clotting protein. When will it come? Which is necessary for blood clotting. I mean, this protein, clotting factor 8, it is necessary for blood clotting, and when it is present in lesser amount, when it is deficient, then you face such genetic problems called as hemophilia. And it is sex-linked disorder which is determined by X and Y chromosomes. Very important. Okay, so just because it is a sex-linked disorder, it is becoming a genetic bleeding disorder. Okay, so it is sex determined. Okay, sex-linked disorder. Here, the gene for hemophilia is found on X chromosome. Okay, we humans have X chromosomes and Y chromosomes as our sex chromosomes. Okay, that is why it is called a sex-linked disorder. Okay, we have XX and XY as our sex chromosomes, male and female, female and male. Okay, so here this hemophilia is found on the X chromosome. Okay, so a defect in the X chromosome will cause hemophilia, and it is much more common in males than in females. This we need to understand. This is just a logic here, but what is the logic that we need to know? Before understanding the logic that why it is more common in males than in females, we must have to understand hemophilia here. Okay, so for a healthy person, how will it be? And then for a person who is affected by hemophilia, how will the clotting factor be? This is what we need to know here. So for a healthy person, the normal blood vessel will be looking like this. Okay, and when hemorrhage happens, what is hemorrhage? Hemorrhage is bleeding. That is called as hemorrhage. Okay, so during hemorrhage, blood comes out. The blood vessel is broken here and it comes out. Here, after the blood vessel is broken, after certain time, okay, for I mean it depends on the depth of the wound, it will take some few seconds to few minutes. Okay, so clotting factors will come into play and then the blood will get clotted. Okay, this will happen in a healthy human being. But if a person is going to suffer from this hemophilia condition, which is a genetic disorder, they will have this inability to clot. The blood will have inability to clot. That is because of the absence of the blood clotting protein, that is protein 8. Okay, blood clotting protein 8. So that is hemophilia. Here we need to understand that hemophilia is more common among men. The logic or the reason behind why hemophilia is more common in men. We already saw that XX is female and then XY is male. These are sex chromosomes, sex determining chromosomes. So if a girl is born with one defective X chromosome, we already know that if a person is affected by hemophilia, then it is clearly understood that his X chromosome is defective. Okay, so this basics we already know. Now let us see, if a girl is born with one defective X chromosome, or other X chromosome can compensate for it, because a female has X and X. If one of the X is defective, then the other will compensate for this blood clotting factor. Okay, but I mean, in such a case, she is a carrier of hemophilia. This girl is affected by hemophilia but will not suffer from the condition herself. But if both of her X chromosomes are defective, then surely she will suffer from this condition. So if both are defective, then she might suffer. Okay, if one is good and the other is defective, then she may not suffer. This is for girls. But when it comes to boys, if a boy is born with a defective X chromosome, he does not have the second X chromosome to compensate for it, because a boy is XY. Okay, so if X is defective, yes, surely he is going to suffer here. Okay, so hence hemophilia is more common among boys. This is the reason why it is called, I mean, why hemophilia is more common in men than in women. Okay, because they have XX here and we have, I mean, men have XY here. Okay, so this is what we need to know. Next is, what are all the symptoms of this? So the symptoms are prolonged bleeding after injuries, surgeries, or spontaneous bleeding into muscles and joints. This is, I mean, these are all the symptoms of hemophilia. Now, what are all the treatment options that we have for hemophilia? One is, it includes replacement therapy. What is this replacement therapy? The clotting factor is going to be replaced here. So here the clotting factor concentrates are infused into the bloodstream to assist blood clotting. So the clotting factor concentrates, what are concentrates? It is like a dose that is given. Okay, here the clotting factor concentrates are infused into the bloodstream of the person to assist in blood clotting, and then the other treatments may involve medications to encourage clotting, surgery to mend bleeding related damages. These are all the things that are done. Okay, next is the most common types of hemophilia are two. One is hemophilia A, another is hemophilia B. What is hemophilia A? It is called as classic hemophilia. Here, this type is caused by lack or decrease of clotting factor 8. Important to be noted. Next is hemophilia B is Christmas disease, also called as Christmas disease, and this type is caused by a lack or decrease of clotting factor 9. Very important to be noted. So, hemophilia A is clotting factor 8 deficiency, and hemophilia B is clotting factor 9 deficiency. Okay, so what else do we have to understand? When we started, we said, the news background behind this is that India has conducted the first clinical trial of gene therapy for this hemophilia. So now we have understood what hemophilia is. Now we have to understand what is gene therapy. What is gene therapy? Gene therapy is introduction, removal or change in genetic material. What are genetic material? Typically DNA and RNA are genetic material, where in the cells of a patient to treat an inherited or developed disease. This is called as gene therapy. When we are going to introduce, remove or change any genetic material, that is gene therapy. Here gene therapy replaces a faulty gene and adds a new gene into it, and then it is an attempt to cure the disease or improve the body's ability to fight the disease. Okay, so it is just like an attempt to see whether the body will get adapted to the new gene or not. Okay, and then this gene therapies can work by several mechanisms. What are all the mechanisms that we have? One is replacing a disease causing gene with a healthy copy of another gene. Okay, next is inactivating a disease causing gene that is not functioning properly. So even if we inactivate certain gene, then it might help in controlling the disease. Next is introducing a new or modified gene into the body to help treat disease. So one is disease causing gene is replaced, another is introducing new or modified gene, another is disease causing gene which is not functioning properly is removed, okay, or inactivated. So this is what is gene therapy. Okay, so India has recently conducted the clinical trial for hemophilia disease, the gene therapy clinical trial for gene therapy disease. This is what the news background here which we need to know. The topic that we are going to discuss now is India's first indigenously developed hydrogen fuel cell ferry. What is this hydrogen fuel cell ferry? Let us understand. Prime Minister of India recently launched India's first indigenously developed hydrogen fuel cell ferry, and it was manufactured by the Cochin shipyard under Harit Nauka initiative. This is important from prelims perspective. Okay, or you might even add this in your answer writing, that what Harit Nauka initiative is. Okay, so what is this Harit Nauka initiative and what are all the details about the ferry that we need to know? One is it is a 24-meter catamaran which can accommodate 50 people in its air-conditioned chambers, passenger areas. Okay, so here the accommodation is made of high quality fiberglass reinforced plastic resembling a metro train coaches. So these ferries will be resembling a metro coach, okay, metro train coaches. And then how is it propelled? How is this Nauka propelled, or how is this ferry propelled? That we need to know. So this boat uses 50 kilowatt PEM. What is PEM? Proton exchange membrane fuel cell. So this proton exchange membrane fuel cell uses hydrogen. Okay, so that we'll understand in the upcoming slides. And along with this, it also uses lithium ion phosphate batteries. Moreover, this PEM, that is proton exchange membrane fuel cells, have the advantage of quickly adjusting their output to match the power demand. So if the power demand is going to suddenly increase, then the system has to adjust to it. Accordingly, it has to deliver the output. That can be done by this PEM, that is proton exchange membrane fuel cell. So how does it work? What are all the inputs and outputs of this PEM fuel cell? Let us understand. PEM, proton exchange membrane. Actually, H plus hydrogen ion is there, right? This H plus ion is called as proton. Okay, so fuel here is hydrogen, and then hydrogen will get dissociated into H plus ion and then electron, and then the electron will be sent into a circuit. The electron will be received by the oxygen from air. So oxygen from air is coming from this side. So oxygen plus this electron which has traveled through the circuit will react to form O2 minus. Okay, and this H plus and O2 minus will react to form water. Okay, so H plus, these are H plus ions. Okay, they will react with O2 minus that has been formed here, and then water is formed. So water vapor is the output here. This is what we need to know. And we have this exchange membrane, proton exchange membrane, which is a specially designed membrane which allows protons. Protons here are H plus ions. Okay, hydrogen ions. So this is what we need to know about the fuel cell. Okay. Now let us understand further more details about the ferry. So this boat has 5 hydrogen cylinders that can hold 40 kilogram of hydrogen, providing support for 8 hours of operation. Additionally, the vessel is equipped with 3 kilowatt solar panel. Okay, so it also has solar power panels. Next is a hydrogen fuel cell creates electricity using chemical energy in hydrogen and only emits pure water without releasing pollutants. Like we saw, the only output or the byproduct here is water vapor. Okay, no other pollutants. Next is this Cochin Shipyard Limited developed the vessel automation system and power management system, whereas the hydrogen fuel cell system was developed by KPIT Technologies Pune in collaboration with CSIR, that is Council of Scientific and Industrial Research Labs, CSIR labs. Along with this, KPIT Technologies from Pune have developed this hydrogen fuel cell. Okay, that is proton exchange membrane fuel cell. Okay, so this is what we need to understand from this topic. So what are all the significance of this Harit Nauka initiative? Here it produces zero emissions, like we saw in the earlier slides, that it produces zero emissions, and then there is no noise also, and it is energy efficient. It will also make urban mobility smooth and easy. Okay, so it will also help in urban mobility. Next is, since it has no moving parts, there is no moving parts, it operates by a battery. Okay, so there are no moving parts. The ferry needs less maintenance than the combustion vessels. In combustion vessels, the engine will be running, but here no such operations are involved, so there are no moving parts here. So okay, so this is what we need to know: zero emission and then hydrogen powered. Okay, Harit Nauka initiative. This is important. This term is important. Okay, yes. The topic that we are going to discuss now is obesity rates going up across the world, Lancet study. So, recent study by Lancet has concluded that obesity rates are going up across the world. So, what are all the key findings of this report? What obesity is, and all such details we must have to understand. Let us get into the details. The study was conducted by NCD Risk Factor Collaboration in collaboration with World Health Organization. So what is this NCD risk factor collaboration? NCD here is non-communicable diseases. Okay, so This NCD risk factor collaboration is a global network for health, global network of health scientists who are offering thorough and prompt data on the risk factors for the non-communicable diseases. They, along with World Health Organization, has released this report. And then what is the methodology that has been used here? More than 1500 researchers from 190 plus countries analyzed the weight and height data from over 220 million individuals who are aged 5 and above. Okay, and they use the body mass index. Okay, so when we know the weight and the height, then we can calculate the body mass index to study the global changes in obesity and underweight from 1990 to 2022. Okay, so these are all the details, the findings that we are going to see for the year 1990 to 2022. Now let us understand what obesity is. Okay, as per WHO. So obesity, as per World Health Organization, refers to excessive accumulation of fat that can be harmful to health. So when there is excessive accumulation of fat, then it is called as obesity. Okay, so here see the numbers. A body mass index over 25 is considered overweight and over 30 is classified as obese. So if the body mass index, what body mass index is? BMI is calculated like this. BMI is weight in kilogram divided by height in meters squared. So height squared, weight by height squared, weight in kilogram and height in meters. So if we calculate this, that is called as BMI, body mass index. If it is less than 18.5, then they are considered underweight. If it is between 18.5 to 24.9, then it is normal. Okay, and then if it is between 25 to 29.9, then it is overweight. And will it become obese? Anything above 30. Okay, so 30 to 34.9 is obese, and more than 35 is extremely obese. Okay, so anything over 30 is classified as obese. So this is the classification that has been given by World Health Organization. Now let us see the worldwide findings and the findings that are related to India. Okay, so worldwide the findings, the figures are more than 1 billion people worldwide are living with obesity. Okay, so there are approximately 8 billion people in world. Okay, of that 1 billion people are living with obesity, and specifically in 2022 there was 159 million children and adolescents. Based on age they are classifying this. So 159 million children and adolescents were there, and then 879 million adults were there who were obese. Next is in India, children and adolescent findings. The obesity rates for girls rose from 0.1 in 1990 to 3.1% in 2022. Okay, while for boys it increased from 0.1 to 3.9%. So if you see, it is 3.1% here, but for boys it is 3.9%. So more boys, adolescents, children and adolescent age guys are obese. Okay, in terms of obesity rates among girls and boys, India ranked 174th globally in the year 2022. Okay, next is when we talk about adults, then among women the obesity rate surged from 1.2% in 1990 to 9.8% in 2022, while among men it rose from 0.5 to 5.4. So when we compare between men and women, adult men and women, then here for among men it jumped from 0.5% to 5.4%, but see for women it jumped from 1.2% to 9.8%. So consistently women percentage of being women, being obese is high. Okay, so this is what we need to know here. What else we need to understand? The importance of this study. Okay, so this discovery is important given India's existing high rates of non-communicable diseases. Okay, so this is a non-communicable disease which will lead to many other problems, including heart disease, stroke and diabetes. And then this obesity significantly increases the risk of developing these diseases, including type 2 diabetes in teenagers at early age. So this is what we need to know, and these are all the figures that has been consolidated for India and for world. All these figures are in millions. Okay, so if we see for men it is 1.1 it was, and then now it is 26 million. Women 2.4, now it is 44 million. And for boys it is 0.2, now it has become 7.3. Girls it is 0.2 and 5.2, it has increased to 5.2. So if we see more women and then more boys are obese with respect to the opposite gender for their age. Okay, so this is what we need to understand. The topic that we are going to discuss now is large language models. What are large language models? So these LLMs or large language models are general purpose language models which are capable of solving common language problems like text classification, question answering and text generation. So this will also come under artificial intelligence. Okay, so these models are trained on massive data sets to understand patterns, structures and relationships within the human language. So within human language, what are all the patterns that we have, structures that we have, what are the relationship between the languages, all these will be given as an input to this large language models, and then they will be giving us output as text classification, question answering and text generation. So this is how it works. We have to give data sets as input and then the outputs will be got in such forms. So in the next slide we'll understand that in a better way. So here, what are all the text training data that we have to provide as input? The training input here is, one is web data, another is books. Next, images which are converted to text, that is one way of input. Another is structural data. So these are all the inputs. So what are all the outputs or the adaptations that it will make? One is answering questions. When we ask a question, it will answer. Based on what? Based on the data sets that we have already given as input. Next is sentient analysis. It can even analyze certain feelings. Okay, so sentient analysis is also possible. Okay, so it is just human like. Next is information summarization, planning, language translation from one language to another. All these can be done with the help of this large language model. So there are different types of large language model. We have to understand that based on the architecture, how it is designed. Based on that, we are going to classify these large language models into three. What are they? One is autoregressive models. What is autoregressive models? Those models which predict the next word in a sequence based on the previous words. This is called as autoregressive model. Okay, so this is more human like. Next is transformer based models. What are transformer based models? It utilizes a specific artificial neural network architecture for language processing. So this is for processing the language and it uses a specific artificial neural network. Moreover, encoder decoder model is also there. What is it? Encode input text into a representation and decode it into another language or format. Okay, so when we encode an input into a representation text, it will decode it. Okay, so encoding and decoding, such models are there, that is encoder decoder model. Okay, so it will come under the models that are based on the different types of architecture that are there for large language models. Moreover, it is based on it is classified based on the training data that we provide to it. First is pre-trained and fine-tuned models. What is pre-trained and fine-tuned models? It adapts to specific tasks through fine-tuning on particular data sets. Okay, we can give a particular data set and then we can fine-tune it. Okay, next is multilingual model. So from the word itself we can understand that it is capable of understanding and generating text in multiple languages. Okay, this is one training data. Another is domain specific models. So they are trained on data which are related to specific domains like legal domain, finance, and then healthcare. Okay, so these are domain specific models. Next, based on size and availability also, this large language models are classified. How are they classified? So large models require more computational resource but offer better performance. So even if the models are large, they will offer better performance. Next is availability. So open source models are freely available while closed source models are not freely available. This is also important. So this is based on the availability, the classification is done. What else do we have to understand from here? That the operational mechanism of LLM, that is large language models. First is, at their core, the LLMs utilize deep learning technique to predict the probability of the words or sequence that are based on the preceding text, like we saw in one of the classification. Next is, these LLMs analyze patterns and relationships in data to predict the next word or sequence based on the input prompts which are akin to humans comprehend the language. So just like how humans comprehend the language, similarly these large language models are going to do it. Next is, LLMs typically rely on the transformer models such as GPT, that is generative pre-trained transformer, that is GPT. The best example here is the chat GPT, okay, with attention mechanisms for contextual understanding. Okay, so this attention mechanism is also given as input for contextual understanding of the inputs that we are giving, okay, the prompts that we are giving. Next is its application and advantages. Here is it used. These LLMs generate human-like content from stories to songs, and it also acts as a virtual assistant, excelling in sentiment analysis, translation, text summarization, and it is crucial for marketing strategies. So these are all the areas where it can be used, applications. Next is, what are all the advantages of it? That it can adapt to various tasks and domains. Based on the input that we give, it can adapt to various tasks and domains, leveraging their extensive training data to generalize patterns. So we will be giving an extensive training data to it. Based on those training data, it will generalize. Okay, so a generalized output is given. Okay, next is, they can perform well even with limited domain specific data. This is also there. Even if we do not give much domain specific data, they can give an excellent domain specific information. Here we have to thank the ability to learn from the general language training data sets. Okay, and as more data and parameters are added to it, these LLMs continuously enhance their performance, making them valuable asset in evolving the AI landscape, the artificial intelligence landscape that we have. Okay, so these are all the details that we need to understand about LLMs, that is large language models. So if we have a basic understanding of what LLMs are and what are all its application and advantages, that much is enough for our exam perspective. Okay, so with this we have come to end of today's session. I hope you found the session to be very useful and informative. Let us see in the next session. Thank you all.